Hey gamers, it's Taugrim. This is episode 19 of my road to Unicum. I'm actually really close to getting account level Unicum, only 19 points away. Today we look at the T32, the Tier 8 American Heavy, which has a superb turret, one of the best turrets at tier in the entire game. It's well protected and it improves on two flaws of the T29 in that the turret roof is really thin and the cupola is still well protected at 228mm plus. The hull armor is also much stronger than the T29, and with proper angling you can boost the upper and lower front glacis to over 200mm of armor while not overexposing your side hull armor. There is one interesting flaw in the armor of this tank. I actually didn't realize this until I looked at this in tanks.gg and Tank Inspector, but this neck area is under 80mm of armor. But I don't think most people know that. You guys can let me know in the comments if you're aware of that. I did not. But having the overall good hull armor along with the amazing turret lets you come up and jam tanks. Like this tier 8 medium is trying to finish me off since I only have 80 hit points, so I come up and I jam him. Initially when I approach him, my hull is angled, it's still angled, and then I finish him off. The only weakness that this tank has is that the silver ammo penetration is pretty lackluster at 198. And notice as this chromo comes up, I track him and then I approach him at a 30-degree angle to keep that front hull armor significantly angled and much therefore stronger. And he's actually firing APCR, which he'll say in chat here in a minute, but I totally jammed him, came up and finished him off. Like I was saying, the silver penetration is relatively low at 198, but if you're firing the premium ammo or gold rounds, which are APCR, those have a terrific penetration value of 245, and APCR is much preferable to heat since you don't end up having to deal with spaced armor. So we're going to look at a replay of a Tier 8 Halluf battle. So it's great for me that I'm top tier, but if you look at the relative team compositions, they're much stronger in that they have a lot of American tanks that can play hull down and have strong turrets and good gun depression. And on top of the relative composition, you can see that my team is over-camping east, so only a handful of our tanks are approaching west, and I'm watching to see our tanks deploy to see if they know what they're doing. In a moment here, the 152 actually stops behind a bush, which is like a mile back from kind of any meaningful point of contact, and if he sits back there, he basically won't have any shots on opponents until the rest of us are dead. So, as far as hold down from our side, really it's just me and the T20, which is ahead of me, and he nubacides right into a bunch of enemy guns. And as I was expecting, their team pushes in strength into this northwest corner to brawl, including all three of their upper tier American heavies. So the T34, the T32, and the T29 all come up into this area. What's great about the position I'm in is that the hills to my left are going to protect me from their arty, and I'm able to use the amazing gun depression of 10 degrees from here while not exposing myself to meaningful fire. So I tag the J Panther and our artery finishes them off, and when I come up to peek for my next shot, I get tracked, but I don't panic and I don't burn my repair kit because I know that I'm not in any kind of position to take meaningful damage. So if we look at this from their perspective, what you'll see, since my tank was leaning back when I was tracked, the upper front glacis is super angled, so that's pretty much auto bounce territory, and they're not going to be able to penetrate my turret. It's almost impossible, and because I'm leaning back and the angle, the cupola is super small. I actually found, running the M103 and the E5, which are the next tiers in the next tanks in this line, that the preferable consumable setup is to run double repair kits and first aid kit, because for the most part, you're not going to be set on fire. I found that in about 450 battles between my M103 and the E5 that I was only set on fire about 5 times, so about once every 90 battles, which is an acceptable risk. The T29, I've tagged him a couple times. He's now dropped down to one-shot territory. I should be staying closer to the rocks on my left. I'm not sure why I strayed a little bit to the right, and I am playing a bit of poker in that I'm bluffing. They're really, until now, you can see the 152 behind me is moving up to support me, but I've been sitting here alone. But what I've been doing is holding the edge hard so that they can't come up and look over and see that I'm isolated. Right? The T69's been thinking about coming over the top for a while. He finally does. I track him, and then unfortunately he managed to squeeze by me. But by this time, our 152 and our Ferdinand come up to support, and then we wreck the T69, and that guy has to run for his life. I do get penetrated, due to my turret being turned sideways, and of course now that I'm no longer already safe, I get clicked, right? So I've lost half of my health, This T32 is over-angled, so that's an easy penetration through his drive wheel, whereas I was properly angled and I bounced a shot from him off my upper front glacis. He really should have been aiming at my drive wheel. That would have been his best chance at penetrating, even though most likely my tracks would have eaten the shot. So I've been, just really careful about minimizing my exposure and trying to keep my gun active. Right there I made a mistake. The T32, I had a kill shot lined up on him. I should have taken the time to be aiming over the rear hull, on top of the engine deck. That's pretty much auto penetration. Instead, I take a rush shot on the side of his turret, and because of the weird angle, it must have just bounced. And I have 3 American tanks right in front of me, so what I'm doing, instead of exposing myself to their fire, I'm just taking the easiest possible shot, which is the ARL-44. And he's got his rear facing toward me, and that's just like total butter as far as 198 penetration is going to rip right through that. I am still being pretty cautious, even though we're ahead at this point and our team is making good progress south into their base. I've seen battles turn on a dime, and especially here in the north, if I die, I'm the strongest tank that we have up here, and a lot of our tanks are also pretty beat up, so I'm being cautious. And again, there's another an instance with the T-34 where I rushed my shot a little bit, bounced off the side of the turret. So this time, since the tanks around me are either not looking at me or have fired, I take my time aiming in fully and polishing off that T-34. And then this purging, because I can shoot down on this hull, that's an easy penetration. And I was so excited, this is so funny. The purging, he starts to run down into the gap, and I know he's going to track himself the way he's going when he lands. So I was thinking, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to get a ram kill here. This is going to be sweet. And as I come down here, the Pershing turns his turret, and he gets a miracle shot. He tracks me on my way down, and it totally throws off my momentum and kills my speed, so I don't get the ram kill. But nonetheless, I did what I was supposed to do in this battle. They had the better composition. They had us outnumbered in the northwest. But by, playing hull down and keeping my gun active, I was able to also, and by, giving them bad shots, I was able to soak up a lot of damage for our team and play the role of the top tier meat shield, which is really what I needed to do as a heavy to make sure we were going to win this battle. Obviously, against tier 9 and tier 10 tanks, like I've shown in other videos, being the middle or bottom tier, you need to play a little bit more conservative, play more of a support role, but as a top tier, you can really bully people in the T32. So in this battle, I end up dealing about 4,200 damage, and I got my Ace Tanker Mastery badge. Definitely left some damage on the table. With some better shots, I probably would have ended up with about 4,800 damage. And the most important thing is I got over 5,000 damage blocked, which is a pretty huge number for a tier 8 battle. And really, it's just a credit to the strengths of this particular tank. In the next video, we're going to look at the M103. I think it's one of the most incorrectly played tanks in all of World of Tanks. And so that's up next. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.